Okay, so these sessions will be every Tuesday and every Thursday at 11 AM. There's not going to be one this Thursday, I'm afraid, so just today's session on Tuesday, but if you would like us to quickly go over what we did today in a revision session next week, we can quickly go over that as well as another topic. But today will be the only session on verbs for a while anyway. We can always do another one in the future if that's what people would like. But every Tuesday and every Thursday, 11 AM, please keep joining us. In the email, we did send you booklets. We've sent you worksheets on what our topic is. So today we're doing verbs, and we have sent you emails previously with the Esol checklist to tick off which lesson you've attended. So last week was nouns, this week is verbs, and we've also sent you verb worksheets, which you can work for at home. If you are on the Accelerate project, so if you speak to me and Shada quite a lot, we have you signing paperwork and stuff like that, then you'll be getting an Esol booklet with all the worksheets from all the sessions sent to you in the post. We're hoping to send these out this week, so they should be with you very shortly. And then if you fill in these worksheets and this booklet, if you bring it back to the Watch Centre or even take photos of it, I can go through and we can mark them and give you feedback and talk you through all the exercises. Okay, but we'll get started today. I hope you've got some pen and paper ready to make notes. So welcome to Employability Esol. And today our topic is verbs. So what are verbs? Our learning objective is to understand what a verb is and to be able to identify one in a sentence. Okay, so hopefully by the end of this session, it should be no more than 30 minutes. We should be able to understand what a verb is and how to use one and how to identify one. So what is a verb? A verb is an action word that tells us what the person, animal, or thing is doing in the sentence. So, if a verb is an action word, it tells us what the person, the animal, or the thing is doing in a sentence. So we'll look at that in a little bit more detail now, each category. So, if a verb is an action word and tells you what a person is doing in a sentence, we will look at this picture here of this girl at her computer typing, and we've got a sentence here about her. She is typing at her computer. And if we're looking for the verb tells us what the person or thing is doing. So what is she doing? She is typing at her computer. So typing would be our verb because it's the action that she is taking. It is what she is doing. So that's how we can find the verb in our sentence. Here are a couple more examples in relation to verbs and people and persons. So if we look at this lady here, she is cleaning. So the action is cleaning because that is what she is doing. So our verb is cleaning. Whereas we look at this man here and he is teaching. So he is teaching. So our verb, our action word, the word that tells us what he is doing is teaching. So teaching is our verb because it tells us, it's the word in the sentence that tells us what he is doing. Now, if we remember, a verb can be about a person, an animal, or a thing. So we'll look at how verbs are now used with animals instead of people. So it's used in pretty much the same way as it is with a person. So if we look at this, we've got a little cat here sitting. The cat is sitting. So our action word is sitting because that is what the cat is doing. And the same with the fish. The fish are swimming. The fish are swimming. So swimming is our verb. So swimming is our verb. So with animals, it works in just the same way as when we looked at verbs with people. You will just, in a sentence, you'll have the noun, the person or the animal, and the verb will tell us what the main noun or the person or the animal is doing in the sentence. So, the fish are swimming. And then also we need to look at how verbs are used with objects. and things, not just with people and animals. So if we look at this football and imagine it's bouncing, the ball bounced. So in this sentence, bounced, because what the ball is doing is our verb. So the ball bounced. So bouncing or bounced, as would be the past tense, is our verb. It is what the ball is doing. And then over here we've got a London red bus. So the bus is, well, that's not very good English. The bus is driving past. So driving would be our verb, because that is what the bus is doing. So with a verb, we have to ask, when we look at a sentence, what is the verb? And the verb is the action word. And the verb tells us what the person, the animal, or the thing is doing in the sentence. So we need to be looking for words that tell us the action. And then if it's an action word, if it tells us what the person, animal, or thing is doing, then we know that that is our verb. So here are a few example verbs. I want to see if you can spot the pattern between all these different verbs and what they have in common. So I'll just get my pen. Right, so here we've got the teacher teaching. So the teacher is teaching. So our verb in this sentence is teaching. And then here the girl is having a haircut. So the girl is cutting her hair, or the girl is having her haircut. So cutting would be our verb. And then we have the girl is reading a book. So reading is our verb. The people are speaking, or the people are speaking to each other. So speaking is our verb. The person is writing. So writing is our verb. And then we have the girl is listening, or the girl is thinking. So listening and thinking. Now, just from saying these words, do they sound like they have anything in common, these verbs? So teaching, cutting, reading, speaking, writing, listening, thinking. Do they sound like these words have anything in common? Now, they're all verbs. And if we look at them written down, you might be able to spot how they are all... Oh, yes. Yes, ma'am. Would you like to say something? Yeah, feel free to say something, Brongan, if you've got a question. Or you can put it in the chat if not. We'll go over it at the end if you'd like to say something. Because we've got the little chat at the top here, if you'd like to say something. So if you have any questions, try typing them in this chat. Okay, so what was I? So if you think what these words might all have in common, we've got teaching, cutting, listening, reading, writing, and speaking. So they've all got this ing at the end. Now this ing on the end of words tells us that something is in the present tense. It tells us it's a verb and that the action is happening right now. We'll look at tenses in a later lesson because they can get a bit detailed, but right now, if we just focus on the present tense, so what action is happening right now, these words all have an ing, so it tells us that the teacher is teaching right now, the person is reading right now. So it's a really good way to be able to identify a verb in a sentence is by looking at its ending. If you ever see an ing, that means it's in the present tense. Now, you might notice they also have something else in common. Apart from these ing on the end, these are all words which you can put the ing on. So they all are a thing called a root word. Now, a root word can have different endings put on it, and you can make it into a different type of verb. So if I was to put ed on teach, it would mean teached, as in the past tense, but the ing on the end makes it present tense. If I was to write to teach in front of teach, that would make it the future. So we'll look at tenses in a later lesson, but this is just a good thing to be able to notice, that there are these different root words that are in many different words. And if you can spell the root word, you'll probably be able to work out how to spell it in the verb form and in the present tense form by adding the ending on. Okay, so here's a quick example sentence. The chef was walking to the kitchen. Now, we've got to try and find our verb in this sentence. So we need to look at each of the words. We've got the chef was walking to the kitchen. So you might have an idea already about what our verbs are, but first with a sentence you need to work out who the sentence is about, what it is about, where they are, and then you look at the action, then you look for the verb. So first we're going to look for the nouns in the sentence to work out who the sentence is about. Now we know that the chef is a person, so the chef is one of our nouns because it's a person. Now if you remember to last week, a noun was a person, a place, or a thing. So a kitchen was a place, so that is also a noun. Okay, so the chef was walking to the kitchen. So these are our nouns from last week. Now if we're looking for our verb, we can find the verb in the sentence because our verb is walking. It's the action that he is doing. He's walking to the kitchen. So that's a really quick way to identify a verb in a sentence. We've got another example sentence here. We've got the receptionist answered the telephone. So we can do the same. We need to work out who the sentence is about. The receptionist answered the telephone, and we need to work out the verb in the sentence as well. So if we look for the nouns, we've got the receptionist answered the telephone. So our receptionist is our person, and the telephone is our object. So these are our nouns. So that leaves us with answered as our verb. Are you okay? So
Okay.
there's a
Answer. Oui, répond aux questions.
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't quite hear you. There's a little chat if you'd like to ask questions in it. If not, we'll quickly do the presentations and look at questions at the end. Okay, so answered would be our verb. So
To communicate.
okay, so our key skills now, if we're looking at different types of verbs, is communication. So to communicate, communicating, and communicated. Now, to communicate is the future tense. So I am going to communicate. I'm communicating is our present tense. I'm communicating, that is a verb, action happening right now. Or I communicated, that's the past tense. So that's the verb in the past tense. Now communication is a key skill. It's a great thing to put in job applications, on your CV, but even just in general, reflecting about your own skills. So by coming to Esol, you are looking to improve your communication skills so that you can communicate in English better. But the word communicate itself, if you're not quite sure what that means, it means speaking and talking and listening and being able to speak clearly and express your ideas, be able to talk with other people. So that's what communication and communicating means, but it's also a key skill and it's a really good verb to be able to recognise and to spell. Okay, so now we've got to lead and leading and lead. So leadership or leading is another great verb to be able to recognise and use. So when you're leading or a leader, you're confident you're friendly and approachable, so anyone can come and ask you questions, not worried. So you might be at work and you might be working with someone and they might not know something and they're happy to come and ask you how to do something. So that would mean that you were approachable, that they think you're nice, and that you're also a role model, so you're an inspiration. People look up to you and they want to copy you, and that's basically what a leader or leadership is about. And then if you look at it in its verb forms, we've got to lead, which is the future tense. Leading, with our little ing on the end, is the present tense, and led. And led is I led, or is past tense, so it means it happened in the past. But leadership and leading are great verbs to be able to recognise and think about using in sentences. Now lastly, we've got organisation. So if we look at organisation in its different verb forms, we've got the future tense, which is to organise, and then we've got the present tense, which is organising, and the past tense, which is organised. So to organise, I'm going to organise my Esol notes. I am organising my Esol notes. I organised my Esol notes in the last week. So you can see the different tenses at work there. But organisation roughly means being able to manage your time. So you know what you're doing when you're on time for things. Punctuality is the same. Say if you had an interview, you turn up early or on time, or to a class on time. That's what being punctual is. And organisation is also about being prepared and planning. So you plan what you're going to do. If you know you've got an appointment next Tuesday, you plan before how you're going to get there. You find out what bus or you need to take, or how long it takes to walk there. This is all skills, organisational skills, and being prepared. So you might turn up to a lesson with a pen and paper. So it's all different organisational skills. And in their verb form, we've got the future tense, the present tense, and the past tense. So to organise, organising, and organised. Okay, so that was just a quick run through on a quick idea of what verbs are and how to find them in a sentence. So today we've looked at identifying and using verbs within a sentence. So first we looked at what a verb is. Now we've worked out that a verb is an action word and it tells us what the person is doing in the sentence and tells us what the person, the animal, or the thing is doing in the sentence. So we now know what a verb there is, or we revised what a verb is, and we've looked at the verb in sentences. So we've tried to work out where a verb comes in a sentence. So you can now, if you remember, if you look for that ed, that ing, that's one quick way to finding a verb in a sentence. And then we've also considered what key skills can be verbs. So if we look back to communicating is a key skill, but it is also a verb. Being able to communicate, that is a verb in a sentence. And we also have lead. So leadership and leading is a key skill and a key verb, and it's very proactive. And in organisation, this is a key verb as well, and something that you can actively do and recognise quite easily in a sentence, and really good thing to be able to spell and to practice saying. Okay, so for this week you'll be able to go to your lesson checklist and tick off that you have been to today's lessons of verbs and nouns, and we also have sent you verb worksheets in the email, and you'll soon be getting them in a booklet if you're on the Accelerate project, like I said earlier. So it tells you, we look over these quick examples again of verbs in a sentence, and as well as some quick exercises to just work through at home, and some key vocabulary. So you can see different types of verbs in the past tense and the present tense. Now remember, the past tense is what happened, so you could say I wore a suit last Tuesday. That would be last week, so it's the past tense. or you could say, I am writing Esol notes, so that is happening right now in the present. Okay, so if you want to join us next week, 11 AM on Tuesday or Thursday, where we will be looking at adjectives, we can quickly go through one of the exercises. I think we've got a few minutes if you guys would like to stay for that. So if we look at the first exercise on the worksheet, we're looking at verbs, and we need to circle the verbs in these pictures. So if we remember, a verb is an action. It tells us what a thing, a person, or a place, or an object is doing. So we look at our first picture, chair. Is chair a verb? Is it an action word? That's where we look at it and we go, no, chair's an object, so it's a noun, so it can't be a verb, so we can't circle this. What about run? Now, run is it is an action word. It tells us what this girl is doing. She's running, so we can circle run. Yeah, so you can see kind of how we do that. Yeah, okay, great. Thanks for putting those in the chat. So Alexa has also said listen. So listen is one. Have we found? Yep. We can circle listen, as that is one of our verbs. What about reading? Do we think reading is a verb? Yep, reading's a verb. Book or girl would be a noun, but read or read is a verb. Then we've got book. So I just said book is a noun, so it can't be. Oh, yeah, so Alexa's also said in the chat that write is one. That is correct. Write is a verb. So we've got write. And are there any more? We've got laptop, chef, and walk. Can anybody spot any more? Yep, great going. We've also got walk. So that's just a quick and easy way to identify verbs in a sentence. I think we're about to run out of time, so work through these worksheets at home. Thank you so much for joining us and for taking part. We will be in touch soon. We will send the link on Monday for next Tuesday's lesson.